Good afternoon, everybody. Let me take you into the state of Maine. So as you can see from the title, this is probably one of the three takeaway slides. It's a North American focused company. We're known for base metals, but we're also working high-grade nickel deposits. We're also working high-grade silver deposits. So we've really got three different silos in one company, and of course as a junior, you only really get paid for one. But this is a company with quite a bit of asset value. I will be making forward-looking statements for sure, so read this at your leisure. So let's look at the topographic map. Out to Western Canada, Manitoba is where we have two advanced nickel projects. They're both about 8 million tons each at about 1% nickel. One of them's right in Snow Lake, so very much a easier development project. The other one's near the Ontario border. Then as we go into the Atlantic region, our silver projects really overlap the border between New Brunswick and Maine. And this whole area is really part of the Bathurst camp. And the silver, hydrothermal silver systems are really part of the plumbing of these big base metal systems. So we're now focusing on the higher grade silver structure while we work our high grade base metal project, which is Pickett Mountain, which was that opening slide. That beautiful forest is all the land that we own in Maine, about 7,000 acres, and I'll tell you more about it here. So if you look at the spread here, we've got over 3 million pounds, 300 million pounds of nickel, Manitoba, 2.5 billion pounds of nickel zinc equivalent in Maine, and then over 100 million ounces of silver in the ground in situ. Second big takeaway slide, corporate structure. I think focus in on that pie chart. We've got two great institutional or strategic partners in this. Altius and Kinross both own just over 10% each. Management, we're very close to 10. The bulk of that is myself as CEO. I'm Ron Little, by the way, not just Wolfden. And Ewan Downey is really my partner and chair in this, and he owns the other bulk of the stock. And of course, we have family, friends, and brokers owning more than the 8%. We're about 150 million shares out. The warrants, mostly held by Altius, they're expiring later on this year at about 35 cents. Currently trading at about 25. Proud to say the stock really hasn't been impacted over the last couple of weeks by the downturn in the market, and that's largely because we've got great support from buying on the U.S. side of the border, much from people who understand what we're trying to do in Maine. So we're well supported by investors that know about the mining space and our project package. Like the previous story, we for a small cap company, we have coverage with three different brokers, and you can see from the chart, you know, we've been on an uptick, and it's largely because of the permitting process that we're doing down in Maine. Next takeaway slide is really, you know, this underpins why we've got such strategic partners. This is a pie chart of the makeup of the ore of the Pickett Mountain Project in Maine, which is the flagship project. You can see that it equates to about $500 a ton in situ, but this is at considerably lower metal prices than we are today. This would be well over 600 in terms of metal prices today, and for those of you that know gold projects better than base metal mix, focus on that yellow chart. You can see that the gold equivalent, this would be about 2 million ounces at 10 grams per ton. So this is a really high margin mine, and companies like Kinross are focused not just on precious metals, they're focused on production of high margin. And I'll give you a glimpse of the economics in another slide. We're located up in the northeast corner of Maine. We're really only about 30 minutes from the border to New Brunswick and about an hour and a half over to Fredericton. This part of Maine is very underpopulated, and it's all about the timber business. So it's a great community to retrain into miners because they all know how to run heavy equipment. A three-dimensional view of the ore body. In a simplistic view, we got two bigger lenses. The orange and the red are about 3 million tons each. The blue is a new discovery in the last 2 years, about 500,000, probably growing to 1 million tons. There's more than enough ore here to justify building the mine, and now we've been into a pre-permitting phase. We are the first guys back in Maine in 30 years, and the stock is trading at a deep discount because people don't think we're going to get a permit in Maine. Maine. So, you know, to thrust ahead to why you want to look at this stock today, I think we're going to create a couple of milestones between August and September, and this is going to change the face of people's opinion in Maine and the permitting process. This is a look at the economics that I'd mentioned. So the PEA was done in 2020 at those lower metal prices. 200 million after-tax NPV at an 8% discount. This would be over 400 million today. The after-tax IRR today would be over 50%. Paybacks about 1.5 years, and the all-in sustaining cost, or our break-even cost, is down less than 40 cents a pound zinc, which is trading at about $1.50, 55 today. So we haven't seen zinc go down that low in 2 decades. The CapEx, of course, in 2020 is probably closer to 160 to 170 million at today's prices, but it's still a very reasonable CapEx for a junior company. So that's it for call it the Pickett Mountain story. I'll run you through the 2 nickel projects quickly, and you'll have to come back to booth 212 to hear about the silver assets. So this is now taking you right into Snow Lake. If you look at the photo, you can see a plant in the background. That's Hudbay's main Stull Lake complex, 4 kilometers behind our deposit. We'd basically plan on ramping down to the deposit, which forms this island in the front view. And the nickel-bearing deposit is like a sheath that wraps around the island. If you look at this claim image here down to the bottom of the slide on the left, there's a target called the Eureka target. We just drilled that in March, and we're waiting for those results coming in the next few weeks and hit an interesting new target there. So we think that's part of the extension of this whole trend that has gabbro-rich nickel deposits. This is a look at the deposit, so you can see the island sitting up. It's a very shallow lake that it's sitting on. We're about 1 kilometer offshore. The red is the main deposit, and it forms a keel, or a nice thick lens about 20 meters thick, that's plunging 60 degrees down. And this was actually formed horizontally, so that orange feeder was once vertical, and that represents another potential growth in resources. And this is why we're drilling it this winter, to see if we could expand it. Of course, some excellent grades. It's not uncommon to see 3 to 5% nickel, but it's a 1% nickel on average. Second deposit, we're now taking you from Snow Lake about 200 kilometers east towards the Ontario border. The deposit is the red dot that forms Nickel Island. The traces in yellow are the power line. There's a hydro line that comes down to feed these 4 First Nations communities. And of course, there's only winter road access. And the communities here now, it's much like the Ring of Fire, where they want to see the roads get developed. The way to get development and infrastructure in is usually first choice is mining and resources. Monument Bay is a multi-million ounce gold deposit that Yamana owns. So you combine that with the upside of the nickel deposits in Nickel Island or Island Lake, you've now building critical mass to justify more infrastructure. So these First Nations communities are basically, you know, they've totally changed in 30 years, that they see the way to stay there and thrive and have their families continue up there is through development, jobs, and training, and that's what projects like this represent. So we're getting, you know, positivity behind what we're trying to do and work on the project. The upside to this geology is that we're part of a 50-kilometer trend, and that's the magenta line. So we think we do have the ability to expand this deposit. The geophysics really shows us immediate upside. The deposit in the top right corner is about 1 kilometer long. That's inset below. We've got 2 other ellipses showing at least 1 kilometer extension and 2 other lenses that we plan to drill this winter. A look at the core, we're about, you know, this is one of the spectacular pieces of 7%. This was an Inco discovery back in the 60s. They didn't even assay for PGEs back then, so we've been relogging some of the core that we've been able to attain out of their library and show there's more upside. So this is much like the Ring of Fire story. We see more deposits along that whole komatiitic trend, and this is what the current deposit looks like in a long section, about 1 kilometer long, and a nice steep, you know, subvertical dip to it, which is easy to mine, which is on the inset. So to sum all this up, why do you want to look at this stock? Well, I mentioned, we've got catalysts coming on the permitting, but most importantly, we've got that one Maine development asset. This is going to be a mine to build. There's no doubt it can be bigger, and it's quality grade. Second, we have 2 nickel sulfide deposits. 3, we've got the silver hydrothermal systems in Maine as well. And we've got, the support of some excellent partners as well. Thank you very much for your time. We're in booth 212 if you'd like to hear a little bit more.